The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has announced that she will run for a second term since taking over in 2019. She led the bloc through Brexit, the COVID-19 pandemic, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The German Conservative is widely expected to win the backing of most EU countries. She launched her bid a short while ago in Berlin.
When the question arose back then as to whether I could imagine becoming president of the European Commission, I immediately said yes intuitively. Today, 5 years later, I'm making a very conscious and considered decision. I would like to run for a second term.
She's risen to international prominence during her time as EU Commission President, and here's a look at her time in office and what challenges lie ahead.
A history maker and a trailblazer. Ursula von der Leyen became the first woman president of the European Commission in 2019.
The trust you placed in me is confidence you placed in Europe.
Her selection came as a surprise to many. Not a former prime minister like many of her predecessors, but a struggling defense minister in the German government of Angela Merkel. Fast forward to 2022, and the Forbes list calls von der Leyen the most powerful woman in the world, and again in 2023. So what got her there? Her commission proposed the world's most ambitious climate laws, spearheaded the EU's successful COVID vaccine procurement programme, heavily supported Ukraine, and talked tough against China. Those successes haven't won over all of the members of the European Parliament, though, who will have a chance to block her second term.
She is like the champion of announcements, of making announcements, big announcements with beautiful words, wonderful headlines, but in the end she has fallen short.
Let's stop thinking about lunatic nightmares of nationalists. Please, von der Leyen, don't forget that, because sometimes I think you forgot a bit.
Some EU politicians, even outside of her centre-right political family, are on her side.
She has impressed on me and on the Swedish Greens in many ways. She's been strong and committed.
For nearly 5 years, Ursula von der Leyen has lived in an apartment inside the European Commission headquarters in Brussels. She may want to stay there, but she won't go unchallenged. And the decision on whether she remains will essentially be made by the leaders of the EU governments after the European elections in June.
Now, earlier we spoke with our Brussels correspondent Bernd Riegert and asked him to remind us why the post of the European Commission President is so important.
The Commission President is the most powerful job the EU has to offer, and also the most complex job. The Commission President is setting the agenda, is proposing all regulations, and she's also the guardian of the treaty. She has to make sure that the 27 member states follow the rules. And so she has to broker a lot of compromise, and she's also the international face of Europe, of the EU, in many instances.
Why does she want a second term? What are her main priorities?
Well, Ursula von der Leyen said today in Berlin that she has developed even more compassion for Europe in the last 5 years. She was managing many crises, the COVID crisis, the biggest one of them, and now she sees unfinished business. She wants to tackle the threat against Europe, to reorganize defense and to overcome the war against Ukraine. So she says there's a lot to be done, and she wants to do that. She's a kind of a workaholic. She could retire with 65, but she wants to carry on until she's 70.
Who are her competitors?
There are no known competitors so far, and that is due to a very complex system. The Commission President is actually selected by the heads of states and government of the 27 member states, and then needs a confirmation by the European Parliament that will be elected in June. So there are no open competitors. She is now the front runner for the biggest group in Parliament. And the second biggest group, the Socialists, don't have a chance, actually, that their candidate, an unknown commissioner from Luxembourg, will be selected. And it's not sure that she will be selected, because the heads of state and government are free to choose whoever they want. 5 years ago, they had Ursula von der Leyen. She was a surprise candidate by then. And so it's not very clear that she has opposition, but her chances are quite well because she's regarded as a good president by most of the heads of states and government, except Hungary. Viktor Orban, the prime minister in Budapest, is opposing her, and he wants, of course, a prize for agreeing in the end.
And Bernd, I mean, there's been so much said of growing far-right sentiment ahead of June's European Parliament elections. And I'm just wondering if what is also being said about how this might impact who leads the EU going forward.
Yeah, the last step in the selection of the Commission President would be a vote in Parliament to confirm her, and the right-wing populists could make that more difficult to organize a majority, but they are far from a majority, so it's most likely that Ursula von der Leyen will prevail.
Bernd Riegert in Brussels, thank you.